The interim championship is on the line between two former champions. But who's going to take it? I'm Teekosey, and this is with just 15 defeats. This is with just 15 defeats. I'm Teekosey, and thanks for joining me for another heavyweight boxing preview. And the preview we're going to be doing today is Alexander Povetkin versus Bermane Stiverne, which is taking place on the 17th of December, just a few weeks from now. And it seems like I have been teasing everyone with my preview for this fight for months, but I just haven't got around to doing it, and this is it. So if you've got any comments on this fight, go down to the comment section, communicate with me. I'll get right back at you. I want to know who you think's going to win. I want to know your thoughts on the fight, and let's start the debate. If you like this video, remember to give me a big thumbs up, then jump across to my channel, hit that subscribe button, check out my videos, and remember to come back for the reviews in a couple of weeks. So enough of that, let's jump across to the fight. Now, the big thing about this fight is that both of them have failed drugs tests this year. Now, obviously, this is a massive thing in boxing at the moment. The last year or so, we've seen a number of guys in the heavyweight division fail tests for whatever reason. Obviously, some high-profile guys have failed the tests. Browne twice now this year, and also Ortiz. Some other guys have failed them in the past. And like with them all, there's always a reason. Now, I think it's a very difficult subject, and there's a lot of grey areas. And the reason why there's a lot of grey areas is because the list of banned substances is increasing every single day. And yes, these guys should be on top of it. They should know what they're putting into their body. And there's no excuse. And to be fair, that's correct. But I suppose it's an ever evolving situation in professional sport. And let's be fair, some of these guys probably not the brightest, and they just like to keep to the system that they know, and they're slipping up. It's as simple as that. So the fact that they've both failed tests, they both kind of pretty much got away with it. I think Povetkin wasn't suspended, wasn't really had any punishment, but he lost a massive super fight where he was going to earn millions, and obviously was for the world title, a version of which he held before. Stiverne, the fight was obviously still going ahead, but he was fined, I believe, some other stuff, but the fight was going ahead, right? So that's that. Let's just move on and talk about the fight. Now, if we start with Alexander Povetkin, very experienced individual. He's got a record of 30-1. With that singular defeat coming against Wladimir Klitschko, 22 knockouts, and he is a former WBA belt holder. Now, he's also a 2004 Olympic gold medalist. He's got a very distinguished amateur career. He's won many gold medals, and realistically, he won a lot of amateur fights, and I believe that he even avenged all of his losses, according to good old Wikipedia. Now, Povetkin is 6'2" and 225 pounds, so he's not the biggest. He's not a super heavyweight, likes of Klitschko, Wilder, Fury, these sort of guys. He's still a big guy. He's not a guy that could boil down to cruiserweight, I don't believe. He is 38 years old, so he's no spring chicken. But he's obviously, whether he's in his prime or not, I think this fight will definitely tell us how much he's got left in the tank. Now, what sort of fighter is Alexander Povetkin? He is incredibly accurate. He's an incredibly accurate puncher. He's a good pressure fighter. He likes to jump into his shots. He fights on his toes. He's incredible on the inside. One of the best on the insides. Has a wide range of shots and has a phenomenal chin. So he has a lot going for him. He has a lot going for him. I think his only negative thing is something he can't do anything about, and that is his size. Yes, it's his size. I think if he was the size of a Klitschko or a Fury, he could well be the best in the division. I think it's just that those few inches really put him at a disadvantage against the guys that are of a similar ability. Now, he's got a phenomenal CV, Povetkin. He's been in the ring with a number of very talented guys. So the fact that he's only lost once to the great Wladimir is a real credit to him. So we can just go through a few of the opponents that he's fought in recent years. Now, obviously, the Klitschko defeat was a disappointing fight for him because he lost his title, but it was one of the ones, he was down on the canvas a lot of times. He was pulled over, he was dragged. I just don't think he was ready for that fight. And Klitschko took advantage of him. It's simple as that, really. And I don't think we can draw a lot into it for this fight because Klitschko, there's no comparisons that we can really draw between Wladimir Klitschko and Bermane Stiverne. So we'll just go with that. So the next one that I find really interesting is the Huck fight. Now, that was a very close fight. It was a very, very tough fight. Some people thought that Huck won, but Povetkin, he won. He took a lot of punishment. As I said, it was a very, very tough fight. Two guys of a similar size, and it was a bit of a war, but Povetkin, he came out trumps at the end. Next one, another guy of a similar size, Mamul Char. The difference with this was that Povetkin managed to get in close a lot. He punched through the defence of Char over and over again with very, very accurate punches, good combinations, good hooks, and then sparked him out. So that was a good fight. The next one, which was an all-out war, was Carlos Takam. Now, as I say, this was an all-out war. A lot of similarities between the two in terms of skill set, but we'll say Povetkin is of a much higher level, and it was just a war. And then again, it ended up sparking him out. And then we move on to Mike Perez, again another guy of a similar size, maybe a bit heavier than Povetkin, but he managed to just rapidly close the distance and basically spark him out as well. So he's had some very good knockouts in the last couple of years and some good performances, but some very, very tough fights. Some very tough fights where he either came out on top or he knocked them out cold. So that's what we need to know about Alexander Povetkin. Now, his opponent for this fight is Bermane Stiverne. Now, he's got a record of 25-2-1 with 21 knockouts. And he picked up the vacant WBC strap some years ago before losing it to Wilder. Now, he's less distinguished as an amateur, but he does have an amateur record. He's of a similar size to Povetkin. He's about 6'2", so he's about the same height. He's going to be slightly heavier, and he's about the same age, believe it or not. Now, Stiverne he's pretty tough. He's pretty accurate, and he's more of a counter puncher. He likes to sit back, absorb a bit of punishments down the back foot, and find his opportunities. He can close the distance very rapidly and amount an assault, but this is few and far between. One thing I would say is that his defense is not great. It's not great. And as I say, he likes to sit back and consider his punches, consider his counters. The problem is that he does not move around the ring particularly great, and because of that, that's why he has to absorb a bit of punishment. So that's what we know about him. Now, his big fight was against Wilder. He lost it. But he is the only man to have taken Deontay Wilder the full distance, which is pretty damn incredible. But ultimately in that fight, he was hit far too much. He was worn out. And as I've said about Stiverne in the past, a good boxer who can fight at range with accurate punches should be able to beat Stiverne fairly handily. But it was a very, very tough night's work for Wilder. He was hit, he was hurt, but ultimately he won a wide decision over Stiverne. Now, Stiverne has fought Chris Arreola twice. He defeated him, and then he fought him again for the vacant title. First fight went the distance, but the second one ended in a referee stoppage. I think after the first fight, which was a clear points victory for Stiverne, he did not really respect Chris Arreola's power, despite the fact that Chris Arreola has knocked out a lot of people in the past. Didn't respect it, and he went in there to really stop him. You could see from the style that he adopted, his hands were down. He was jabbing a lot more than he does. He was getting in Arreola's face. And in the end, he managed to drop him, and the referee stopped the bout shortly after. Now, after Stiverne lost the title, he had nearly a year out before a comeback fight against Derek Rossi. Now, he was down in the first round against Derek Rossi, believe it or not, before for winning a fairly comfortable fight. He won the majority of the fight, but obviously the being dropped in the first round kind of alters the way that the fight was judged. Now, obviously, Derek Rossi he's a tough guy. And I think people look at that and think this is a pretty terrible decision, pretty terrible result to have gone the full what was a 10-rounder against Derek Rossi. But Derek Rossi has lost quite a lot of fights, so I'm not going to say he's a top fighter because he's clearly nowhere near. But he's tough and he's definitely durable. And after 3 or 4 years, he's been the distance in all of his fights, even obviously the ones that he's lost, and he's gone the full duration against the likes of Tepa, Stiverne, Browne, Klitschko, etc. So he's gone the distance with some decent level guys. And just Stiverne is not one of those guys that wasn't able to take him out, right? So, what are the differences between Povetkin and Stiverne? Now, the difference is that Stiverne's going to come into this fight being slightly bigger, only slightly. If the two guys come in how we've seen them come in the past, okay, we know that Povetkin always comes in phenomenal looking shape. And if that's the case, I think that Stiverne's going to come in probably about 15 to 20 pounds heavier. He's also going to have a little bit of a reach. Now, as I've kind of tried to allude to in this video, Povetkin comes in with a significant experience. I mean, his CV is pretty phenomenal when you look at who he has fought. He's fought a much higher caliber. He's beaten a much higher caliber of opponent. His only defeat is against Klitschko, when Klitschko was just dropping everyone. It's not a terrible loss in his record. How's this fight going to go? Now, I don't think it's going to be pretty. It's not going to be pretty. I think they're going to be in each other's faces. They're going to be trading blows for as long as it takes. Now, how do I see this fight going? My prediction is that Povetkin will win. I think he wins. And I think, as I say, I think they're going to be in each other's faces. They're going to be trading blows. And I think Povetkin is going to find a home for his punches over and over again. He's going to be punching through the guard. He's going to be getting those hooks around the side. And this is going to be going over and over again. And whilst Deontay was unable to take him out, I have a feeling that Povetkin will be able to stop him in the middle to late rounds. That's what I think. Okay, so the odds on this fight are that Povetkin is the big favourite. His odds are 1-8, whereas Stiverne is only 5-1. So there's a bit of a swing there. It's not as massive as we've seen in some of the other fights that are happening in the next week or so, but it's still Povetkin as the overriding favourite. Now, if you've got any comments on this big fight, I want to hear from you ASAP, and let's start the debate. Let's start the conversation on this fight. If you like the video, remember to hit the like button, subscribe to my channel, check out some of my other videos. We've got all the previews for the big fights, and we're going to have all of the reviews afterwards, and we're going to start to have a lot of debate pieces in January when it's a little bit quiet. So you're going to have to obviously click the old subscribe button, and it's going to be good to speak to you. So I've been Teekosey, and this has been with just 15 defeats.